I hope you had some rest from the very intense morning that we had with the two roundtables and the introduction. I hope you enjoyed it. We are now here ready to start with the afternoon. We have 4 parallel sessions happening. This one is a starter guide for Horizon Europe. We have a digital transformation session, the session on defense, synergies and dual use, and the session on mission. If you feel that you are in the wrong session, feel free to click on the left on the second. Well, there's a little computer there, and you see the activities, and you can jump into another session if you want. Feel also free to go wherever you want during the time that we have. Remember that we want to have this session, in particular this one. We want to be here and solve your doubts and respond to your questions. So feel free to chat with everyone. Natalie is posting some messages already. There's a Q&A table tab just below the chat one, and you can see post live questions. We can live respond to them. We can respond at the end. Feel free to post them as soon as you want. You also have some live poll happening. Please go there and fill in. It's very important for us to understand how did you hear about this event. So if what communication channel did you use to get and reach us, and also why it's very important to participate for you in a session like this one. So for those of you who are not here before, I'm Stefano Pozzi. I'm the head of the European RDI support team in Lux Innovation. I am joined this afternoon by my colleague Francisco, who recently joined Lux Innovation. I think it was October, right, Francisco?
And, yes, mid-October.
Yeah, so he comes with a lot of experience from Horizon 2020. So it's his first job as an NCP. But still, his experience is much valuable for all of you. What I wanted also to mention is that I have been a newcomer myself. I started on my own when I was first approaching. Well, it was FP6 projects. It was a long time ago. I think it's about 20 years ago that I started doing this job. You don't see probably today all the gray hair, but yeah, it's 20 years that I'm working on European projects. And honestly, I did it in Italy. And if you were attending the second roundtable, there was someone saying that in big countries, the NCPs cannot help you too much because, of course, they have bigger ecosystems bombarding them with questions. And I would have loved to be in Luxembourg and having the possibility of talking to us, well, to people like us today, as freely as is possible in Luxembourg. So let me start sharing my presentation, and so we can kick off. Please use the chat also to say who you are, why you're here. Really, feel free to interact with us. We want really to have a very interactive session today. Please, there's no wrong question. There can be wrong answers, and if we don't have the answers, we can come back to you afterwards. But please don't be shy. There's nothing wrong in in voicing your doubts about the programs. So, agenda of the afternoon. We will go back to some of the slides that you have already seen this morning and speak a bit about Horizon Europe, which is a program which is supporting R&D and innovation for a more competitive, sustainable, and just Europe. We will speak about our services, and then Francisco will talk to you about a project that we as Lux Innovation, we are also involved in. And it's about bringing talented newcomers to Horizon Europe, in particular in the area of advanced material manufacturing processes, the nanotechnology, which is what NMP stands for, nanotechnologies, material, and production. and processes. There's one P left. So let's go back quickly about Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is a 7 years work program, and it's in line with the multi-annual financial framework that the Commission is and the member states are setting up for 7 years to 7 years to 7 years. And Horizon Europe particularly is lasting from 2021 to 2027. It's important to say that 35% of the funding is going to climate change related projects. So it's for projects that have a direct and indirect impact on this very important priority. And you have heard quite a lot from the panel or the first roundtable, from Hakan Lucius, from Benjamin, from me, from Christina, from everyone, from Robert Kerja as well. So how does it work in practice, basically? Horizon Europe sits on two main policies from the Commission. One is the Green Deal policy, which is about greening the different sectors, most of the sectors of our economy, with the important challenge of leaving no one behind. So being sure that we can respond to the challenges that we have at European and global level, in a way that it's sustainable for our planet. So we are within our planet's boundaries, and also that we leave no one behind. This is happening in parallel, but we have heard that it's intertwined with the digital policy from the Commission, shaping Europe's digital future. And this is because there's, of course, an interaction between, well, the digital technologies are enabling the Green Deal. We also have the need to green the digital sector, because, of course, you have heard quite a lot about how also the digital infrastructure are major carbon CO2 emitters. So, at the end, it's a balancing and an intertwining of these two policies to make sure that we are making more resilient, more sustainable economic growth and recovery from the pandemic crisis. We have mentioned already the importance of responding to the UN SDGs. This is not empty words like we are responding to the SDGs. No, in the projects that you're writing and that you're going to write, you will have to circumstantiate and measure how you are impacting with the relevant SDGs for your project. So it's really making things measurable and clear for the evaluators who are going to read your project. You have seen the structure, the excellent science as a first pillar, which is there to support the growth of and to the development of careers, and the careers, for instance, in the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions and in the ERC, where you have indeed the support to individual PIs in excellence-driven research projects, and research infrastructure as well, where you can access excellent infrastructure that you may not have available. You have the global challenges and the European industrial competitiveness. So what is really important to make Europe grow in what are the priorities like health, culture, creativity, and inclusive societies, civil security, including the cybersecurity, digital industry and space, climate, energy, and mobility, food, bioeconomy, circular economy, agriculture, environment. You have heard quite a lot of these topics, right? And finally, innovative Europe. So something which is targeting more innovative startups, scale-ups, thanks to blended finance tool. We will discuss it very shortly. We also have the support for organization like ours, like Lux Innovation, in making a more friendly ecosystem to support innovation. There's also some horizontal aspects that we don't need to cover right now. Let's move on. And yes, here we have a summary of what you can find in these three pillars, because it's, you read these names and sometimes you maybe feel a bit lost. So excellent science essentially is bottom up, so addressing every area, any area of research, mathematics, finance, science, engineering, whatever. Global challenges is essentially happening through thematic calls, predefined top-down topics that we as representative to the program committees, you have heard from also from Robert Cage this morning, are collaborating with our colleagues in other countries and with the Commission to make sure that the topics are addressing the needs of all the countries, so that there's not, this closed circle feeling from for the applicants. You have mostly consortia, mostly collaborative projects, and you can have mid to high tier technology readiness level. Pillar 3, Innovative Europe, instead, it's bottom up normally. You can address, again, then any area. You have the widest range of TRL. You start from TRL 1 and you end up to TRL 9. And you have both consortia, this in particular happening in the EIC Pathfinder, but also individual companies like in the EIC Accelerator. I think that the main role of a contact point is to demystify the work programs, try to make sure that they are, we challenge the common understanding, sometimes wrong, that you may have, in a way that it's understandable to everyone. And therefore, you have heard probably many times that the language is complex, there's a lot of EU jargon, something that you don't understand. So, there are two main approaches to funding, probably three, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. You have three main funding instruments that you should know. You have a gradual approach that you take more responsibilities when you have more experience. You don't need to start and be the coordinator of a big project. You have already heard from Thomas and Pascal. It's not an easy job. And also, I really want to acknowledge the Commission for the constant effort to further simplify the programs. And I can tell you, I am acting as a legal and financial contact point, and I see really how this is happening. I remember Horizon 2020 when you were costing the personal cost of a project. It was not so immediate. Now it's very much simpler, and Commission is going for this approach also to simplify within Horizon Europe and to harmonize with the other programs. So the structure of Horizon Europe, when it comes to, you start from the left, you have Horizon Europe, and then you have Cluster 1 work program, Cluster 2 work program. Sorry, the lights went off. Smart buildings are a priority in Horizon, but sometimes they are not so smart and they switch off the lights even if I'm here. You have the different work programs, and in each work program you have destination, and then you have sessions, and then you have the different topics. In practice, what I really want to stress with you today is that you don't have to care about all the big structure behind. We are here so that you can come to us, tell us what you want to do, and then we can go and find the topics for you. What's the topic which is fitting best your innovation agenda? Then, of course, we will have to take that into account. But for the beginning, just come to us. We speak about what you want to do, what's your RDI strategy, and we can identify where you can fit. Horizon Europe is, as Horizon 2020, as it was in FP7 and was in the past as well, it's mostly a collaborative funding program. You have exceptions, but it's mostly collaborative. Why it's important to collaborate at European level, at least in our opinion? We will speak about the funding. It's there, and it's. But in my opinion, it's not the first reason for participating into this program. Firstly, it's an excellent motivation. Programs are competitive. You have heard about the success rates, and working in these competitive programs allow you to prove that you are mature, that you have your skills. So it's really showing to the people around you in Europe that you are a good top research. It's about networking. It's about working with relevant players in your field. It's very important for the companies. You bring your value chain all together in a project. It's very rare that you have competition between, you have competing companies in the same project. It's very, very rare that you have, for instance, I used to work quite a lot in mobility, that you have Fiat, Peugeot, Volkswagen, Volvo working all together in a project. It may happen when it has an impact on policy, but the approach is instead to have the value chain, and I will show you what it means in a few slides. The impact, you are addressing very important scientific and economic issues in trans-European partnerships. I promised we were speaking about funding, and indeed, the funding rates are very advantageous. You have up to 100% of your eligible cost plus 25% of your overhead funded. So, you know, when you compare it with national funding schemes, the difference is substantial. And yes, Fulia, we are going to. I'm not sure whether we are sharing the presentation. I don't mind in sharing it, of course. So feel free, in case you don't get the presentation, feel free to send me an email, and I will send it to you. But we will have also the recording of the presentation of all the sessions on YouTube. So even if you want to go at a certain point to another session, don't worry, you're not going to lose this. You can access all the recording as you can read on the bottom. And then, you know, the fact that you have been working in this such competitive environment with the best people in the field, you have quite an appreciation for from your partners on the market, from investors, etc. Who can participate? I told you already before, everyone can participate. You can have public or private, research organization, higher education, companies, both SME, large groups, startups, associations, cities, hospitals. I can tell you, single people can participate. I have a very good friend of mine from my past projects from Sweden. He participates on his own as an individual person. You don't even need to have a VAT number attached to you to participate. Countries that can participate, it's called Horizon Europe, so you can understand that member states have, of course, the possibility to participate. Associated countries are also allowed to participate, and for instance, Norway, Norwegian organization, Israeli, the UK is in its association process. So, you know, there are countries that see the benefit of participating, and basically it's a simplification, but they pay for their participation even if they're not member states, and in one particular case member states anymore. Third countries can participate and be financed as well if their contribution is considered essential. If the country has a specific agreement with the European Commission and is listed in the general annexes, and if the core project targets a particular country. So I can tell you, most of the developing countries in the world can participate and receive funding. For more developed economies, United States, Australia, Japan, there are in many cases specific agreements and parallel funding also from their institution, so to ensure that we can participate all together when there's something which has a global impact. I can tell you, some policy aspects of autonomous driving, for instance. You know, if I am working in a company as a car maker, I want to make sure that what I develop in Europe is also free to run on the US highways at a certain point. So the European Commission will collaborate with the Department of Transport. There are, of course, some restricted areas where we want to keep our strategic autonomy as Europe. So I was mentioning free funding instrument. There are 4 on the slides, but don't worry. One of the 4 is really rare for it's a smaller instrument, so it's probably much more relevant to speak about the other three. First one is research and innovation actions, 100% funding for everyone. You can test the solution to develop a proof of concept, a prototype. Innovation actions, 70% funding to private actors, 100% to public research. You bring your proof of concept closer to a real life application. It's where you have industrial pilots, this kind of projects. Coordination support actions is what I was telling you before. It's something which is really, really small. It's normally for networking with your colleagues on key policy issues and derive and write together policies that are policy recommendations that are delivered to the Commission. I worked on this kind of project once. We developed the strategy for chemical safety for nanomaterials, and we delivered this to the Commission for its implementation. ESG accelerator, very relevant for the scale up and for the scale up of SMEs and startups. It's 70% funding plus equity. And there's a big discussion on this at the moment. And please free to talk to us if you're interested in this program, so we can advise you on, and all of these programs in general, so we can advise you for your participation. You have heard from me speaking about this morning. It's a technology readiness level scale developed by NASA many years ago. Basically, it's about the maturity of your of an innovative solution from basic research. Wow, I had an amazing idea, to market deployment. So this is the scale, and you have seen already this slide in the morning. You have lower TRL, the research innovation actions, mid to higher TRL, innovation actions, and then you jump into the ESG accelerator to go towards market, in particular through the equity component of it, and the synergy with the other programs. Of course, these kind of projects are calling for a wider, let's say, participation of industries as soon as you get high with the TRL. But it's very important that if you are in a research center or in the university, you work already with the industries at low TRL, so that you ensure that you can find an impact for a concrete impact for your research, which is very much appreciated in the proposal. So I have shown you the structure, and let's see how it works in a European project. You have here the text of an old call for proposal from Horizon 2020. I haven't updated the slides, but the structure has remained pretty similar. From this text, you can identify keywords, key concepts. You can identify the size of the project. You can identify what the Commission wants you to develop in this project. You have industrial processes. You have its water recycling, smart monitoring, innovative technologies, etc. From this, what you normally do is that you develop the Pert diagram. You imagine your project and you start imagining your consortium starting from this, from the previous text. And this is something that I created myself. You identify how you should structure your project. This is one way, but you can do for other 20 probably. But you have sensors, pilots, what in these pilots you are going to test, artificial intelligence, which is always there to ensure that you have a feedback loop. You always need to have communication and dissemination. The call was about an innovation action, so it's about getting closer to the market. So you want to make sure to have an exploitation in a way that you can be sure that you are bringing results to the market. And of course, you need to manage all of this, so you have the project management here. From this, you can identify, oops, sorry, the slide is gone. I think that transferring to a PDF, the animation was gone. I'm really sorry about that. But you have, for all these work packages, you can have multiple actors playing. You can have multiple industries working as pilots. You can have universities, a research center developing sensor, developing the EI, developing the control tools. Putting all this together, you can have consultancies helping you for the management, for the communication, for the exploitation. So, you have a pretty combined approach to a project. And it's about the value chain, right? It's not that you have competitors here. You will have, at the end, someone who's going to benefit really from the real deployment of these solutions into their prototypes. Tips. I really want to give you tips. It's our role to give tips. And the first one, the most important one, ask for advice from us, from our NCPs, from if you are into working in the university, if you're working in the LIs of Luxembourg, you have institutional support services. You may have, of course, experienced colleagues. There are specialized consultancies, and in some cases, it's recommended to go with them, particularly if you are a large company where, at a certain point you have limited resources in time to develop a project. It's very important to start early, to plan in advance. And very important tip, don't rush into coordination. There's always time to coordinate. It's important to start gradually. What's our role into all of this? What's the role of Lux Innovation, of the team that I have the privilege to manage? We are here to understand your strategy. We monitor the policies and agenda. We contribute to their development because, as I told you, we have the mandate to sit in the committees of the European Commission that are developing the work programs. So we can identify, suggest the most relevant funding opportunities. We help you structuring your projects. We help you align the project that you're applying with your RDI priorities. We search for partners consortia. We support and monitor the grant application. It's important to remember that we can also review your project. We have, in many cases, thematic, non-thematic, but experience in participating to the projects. I personally have a background in nanobiotechnology, so if you are working on that, I'm really happy to help. And we offer legal and financial support. Yes, there's one question, consultant in Luxembourg? Yes, and I see the reply already coming from one of the main ones. You may probably also remember the company from the list of successful players, so you can feel free to contact them. Of course, we are not in the position to tell you who is the best consultant for your project. In case you ask us, we offer you a range of names so that you are free to discuss with them. We want to be really open to you and avoid all the possible conflicts of interest. I'm sure you understand it. And what are the kind of questions that we respond? Yes, indeed. Please, the chat is there specifically for also this kind of networking. What the questions that we answer to? Where to get up-to-date information on the programs, on the calls, on everything? What programs are the most suitable for you? Where and how you can find European partners? And what are the legal and financial issues that you may have? Eligible costs, how to build the budget, how to manage the IP. All these questions is something that we are there to respond to. Again, you have heard European RDI projects are bureaucratic. You spend more time paperwork than on the actual project. Sort of. You have templates available. Your role within the project changes the amount of paperwork that you have to do. Of course, a coordinator has to prepare the financial reporting to the commission, so he must harmonize things from all the different partners. But if you are just a partner, it's very similar to what you do at FNR level or MECO level. So it's not different from what you do already. And commission is evolving into lump sum funding, which is supposed to simplify further the reporting. So basically, you don't need to justify your cost in a lump sum. You just say, I've done this, I've done what I promised you to do. Here my deliverable, and they will say, great. We hear the money, basically. even if you're paid in advance. But that's another good feature of Horizon. And then, the management tasks are part of the project, are part of the eligible cost of the project. So, you can hire, if you want, a full-time project manager for your project. And now it's time for me to leave Francisco the word. He will speak to you about the Fit for NMP project. It's a project we are involved in as Lux Innovation, financed by the Commission, coordinated in Luxembourg, but I'm sure that Francisco will tell you much more about it. Francisco, please. And
Indeed.
in the meantime, sorry, Francisco, please keep going with the question, keep going with the chat. I'm really happy to keep this as interactive as possible. Thanks, Francisco.
Yes. Thank you, Stefano. It's even a good time to put some questions because Stefano, if needed, will ask them, will answer them on the chat itself. So if you can please go to the next slide, Stefano, just to tell you about what is this Fit for NMP project. It's a coordination and support action funded by the Horizon 2020 program, so the previous framework program. And its main objective is to increase the participation of talented newcomers from the so-called underrepresented regions in the Horizon Europe program, specifically focusing on nanotechnologies, advanced materials, and advanced manufacturing and processing. This is what NMP stands for. Just to let you know that NMP, it was the designation that the challenge had in the previous work program in Horizon 2020. Nowadays on Horizon Europe, it corresponds, I would say, in general, to Cluster 4 industry subjects. So what are talented newcomers? So it's stands for promising NMP innovation organizations, can be SMEs, multinationals, research organization, higher education institutions that did not participate in an Horizon 2020 NMP project. And the other represented regions, of course, are those of the EU13, so the countries that later joined the European Union in 2004, and that by default have been below the threshold in terms of projects and funding in these subject areas. Also from the EU15, so the older countries of the European Union and also the associated countries. Okay, so next slide, please. As I was saying, nowadays the NMP subjects correspond mainly to Horizon Europe Pillar 2, Cluster 4 Destinations 1 and 2. That is for clean industry and manufacturing, basically, focusing on advanced materials, new sustainable by design materials with enhanced functionalities and applications in a wide range of industrial processes and consumer products. Manufacturing technologies, sustainable, flexible, responsive, and resilience process and factories enabled by digitalization, artificial intelligence, data sharing, robotics, modularity as well, and clean and circular industries, decarbonized energy and feedstock, usage of hydrogen, CO2 capture and usage, waste heat recovery, artificial photosynthesis materials. So this is, generally speaking, where the focus areas of Fit for NMP. Next slide, please. And last one. I'm a newcomer, so just 3 slides for me. So what kind of support and services do we provide at Fit for NMP for organizations that work in this area? And mainly SMEs. Our focus on SMEs is, of course, because it's not so easy in nanotechnologies and materials and manufacturing to find SMEs working on this subject. So we very much try to bring in some SMEs on these areas. So our free support services include promoting your organization as a potential partner for Horizon Europe proposals, organizing workshops with top innovators, highly experienced organizations on Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, such as CEA in France, VTT in Finland, Fraunhofer in Germany, giving training on grant proposal writing and European networking proposals. These networking proposals can be used, for example, for you to find suitable partners for your adventures on the European projects. Provide access to expressions of interest from proposal coordinators looking for partners. Provide opportunities to participate in important European partnerships, such as Made in Europe, Processes for Planets, the batteries, European Partnership Association as well, PEPA. And finally, support participation in EU conferences, networking, and brokerage events. Some grants for this might be given to partners joining this Fit for MP network. A question that you might have is that if Luxembourgish organizations, even if the focus is to bring this to underrepresented regions, partners for Luxembourg are, of course, very much welcome. If you are working in these areas, if you are interested in being involved in a Horizon project, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And thank you very much for your attention. Stefano, I give the word back to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Francisco. As you can see, this project, I think, is very much in line with what we already do for the other areas. So basically, for us, it was an opportunity to have an extensive networking with a number of other players in other regions. And also, at a certain point, these projects bring resources, additional resources that, as Francisco mentioned, can support the organization of European-wide workshops. So, having more and more visibility for the organization that are participating, and the vouchers for participating to conferences. It's of course at this time of the war, probably it's not really relevant because we don't travel too much lately. We used to be every week in Brussels, and now I'm stuck at home in Luxembourg since 2 years. But still, it was, when we wrote this project, it was very much relevant. Of course, this project targets NMP, the mostly cluster 4 and the first 2 destinations of cluster 4, but these services, most of these services are available from us in all the different thematics. To complement what Francisco said, Luxembourg, you have seen that in this morning, Luxembourg has been pretty successful in Horizon 2020. This area was probably one of the weaknesses, if I can call it like that. It's not a weakness. It's probably that our ecosystem from an SME perspective had not so many companies participating into that. It's an ecosystem which is mostly made by large companies in this area. So of course, this has had an impact on our statistics in the field. But I want to hear from you, from you all. What do you think about the slides? What do you think about ours? What do you think that is? Are you going to participate? Are you thinking about participating? Do you have something which is holding you back? Feel free to share. We have some minutes left, and I would be really happy to hear from you. And if no one is asking question, Francisco has been a pretty successful participant in the past. So in case, Francisco, also from your side, if you have something that as a participant you would have expected from NCPs, and something that maybe we haven't mentioned yet, and that is relevant for the people in the room. We have quite some people in the room, I think. Let me see. We have 30 people in the room, so please, shoot. And if not, Francisco, what you would have expected as a participant from your Portuguese NCP when you were in Portugal, and that we can do for our participants in Luxembourg.
Yeah, I mean, I used to work in a consultancy, so we were used to do things on our on our own. We were quite successful on Horizon projects, so we kind of had our network. So, as you well know, one of the key aspects of succeeding in Horizon 2020 on Horizon projects as a whole, I would say, is to know the ecosystem at European level, to know who works on which areas, to know who usually succeeds, uh, I mean, to know the ground. So one of the key aspects that I would mention. So we never quite recur to national NCPs. I think it was Tommaso saying in the first in the panel in the morning is access to information, of course. Having access to information, being able to analyze all the details that we can analyze, of course, and of course having some good tips from NCPs and from people that work in proposals like I did on how to develop a successful proposal. There are no magic formulas, but there are indeed some tips, some aspects that cannot be forgotten that should always be stressed out.
No, I really like your point on the knowing the ground. I think this is indeed something that we can offer quite a lot. We have um, we have first we have our personal networks from the past. We have our personal networks. We have access to the statistics. We know how to look into the statistics because we have these huge databases from the commission, and it's not always easy to get around them. And also when you have, for instance, you discover that CNRS in France is probably the most successful institution in Horizon 2020. CNRS in France means all their research laboratories all over the country because they have a centralized office in Paris which is managing their full participation. So also knowing it's not CNRS in France, it's CNRS the Nancy guys or the Grenoble guys. It's this kind of information is something that I think is really valuable. I think it's also very good that you all Tommaso was saying that going to the info day was not his most successful experience, but in the past. But going to the info days means that you are going to sit there in a room with all the people in the ecosystem. So knowing who is there, and my advice is when you go into well, now it's not possible, but when you go into an info day, don't look forward at who's speaking. Look backwards and see who is there working on their computer, because they are probably working on their proposals already, and the commission wanted them to be there. So try to see and know who these people are. Try to see in advance who these people are. Try to speak to us before going there, and we can discuss and see who is really the hands-on person in CNRS who's working on this. So you can go there to this info day, and at the info day, talk direct to these people. There's Abracabio system. Yes, feel free to reach out to us. We are really happy to discuss on a personalized basis for your participation. The timing is running short. I understood that the system may cut me if we get to the limit. So I really want to thank you all for participating. Thanks, Francisco, for your very much welcome contribution. Thanks for all the interactions. I really hope that there's much more. I will not be on the platform anymore this afternoon as I have a meeting with the Commission. Francisco also, after his presentation in the next session, will have a meeting with the Commission as well. So please, let's stay in touch and we are here to help you. So thanks again, and we see each other soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.